Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 1138, 1138, Thursday, May the 21st, 2020. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, we have a lot of news to cover today, so let's go ahead and get right to it. Okay, so yesterday, Judicial Watch announced that they had obtained the electronic communication, the EC. You know, the EC that we've heard Nunes talking about forever, that he saw a long time ago and told us, gave us the impression that it was, it's the real reason that they used to open up the Crossfire hurricane investigation. So now Judicial Watch has gotten a copy of it. It is a redacted copy, but it still pretty much tells you the long and short of what they used to open the counterintelligence operation against the Trump campaign and to spy on Trump. So we learned from this EC, we can see clearly, it was written by Peter's Been Stroking Us. Peter's Been Stroking Us wrote the EC. Of course, we know it was used to launch Operation Crossfire Hurricane on the Trump campaign. The EC confirms what we have been hearing basically from Nunes for a very long time, that it alleges in the EC that the FBI used third-hand information that the Russian government, they're alleging that the Russian government had been seeking prominent members of the Trump campaign in which to engage to prepare for potential post-election relations should Trump become president of the United States. It alleges that Papadopoulos claimed to an unnamed third party that the Russians could assist the Trump campaign with anonymous release of information damaging to Hillary Clinton. It says in the EC that it's unclear whether Papadopoulos or the Russians were referring to material acquired publicly or through other means, and it was unclear how Mr. Trump's team reacted to the offer. Oh boy, it's everything Nunes said. Total BS. Really, now we know why they've been hiding it for so long. Because it clearly shows that there was no serious basis for opening the investigation. It was a scam based on gossip and innuendo. Let's just go through this just a little bit. We could spend a lot of time on this, but I don't have, because there's so much to talk about today. But let's just kind of hit a few of the main points here. So the FBI clearly shows in this electronic communication that was used to open up Crossfire Hurricane, it uses third-hand information. Remember, they're saying that Alexander Down the Hatch Downer, this Australian ambassador to the UK, told the FBI, using multiple steps to do it, but eventually tells the FBI that the Russian government is seeking prominent members of the Trump campaign in which to engage to prepare for potential post-election relations. Now, how in the world do you arrive at that? Based on Alexander Down the Hatch Downer, according to him, just saying, yeah, well, I'm having this conversation with Papadopoulos, and he says that the Russians have dirt on Hillary Clinton that could be damaging to Hillary Clinton. And that's all Downer says that Papadopoulos told him. Now, Papadopoulos says he remembers the conversation very well, and he doesn't remember Russia even coming up or anything about the emails. So we don't know who to believe here, Papadopoulos or Downer. You know, I probably would trust Papadopoulos more than Downer, a lot more actually, but we really don't know. It's what Downer says. But still, that's all Downer said. So how does Down the Hatch Downer telling the FBI that Papadopoulos told him that the Russians have some dirt on Hillary, if in fact he even said it, that the Russians have some dirt on Hillary that could be damaging to her? How does that lead you to the conclusion that the Russian government is seeking prominent members of the Trump campaign in which to engage to prepare for potential post-election relations. I mean, that's quite the stretch. And remember, we're talking about third-hand information. Remember, Alexander Downer says that Papadopoulos told him, and that Papadopoulos learned this. Now, he didn't tell Downer where he learned this, but we know that he learned this, according to Papadopoulos, and most reports, that he learned it from Joseph Mifsud. And that Joseph Mifsud obviously learned it from someone else. And we can assume he learned it from someone else, who learned it from someone else. They don't even know. They're just taking the word of Alexander Down the Hatch Downer. And really, if you're in counterintelligence and you find out, and Down the Hatch Downer comes to you and says, yeah, I'm having a coffee with, or a drink with gin and tonic with Papadopoulos, and he tells me that the Russians have dirt on Hillary that could be very damaging to her. Now, if you're in counterintelligence, you would go, that's interesting. Let's have a talk with Downer. You go have a talk with Downer, and you get all the facts. Then you go have a talk with Papadopoulos. You don't target Papadopoulos and put a FISA on him or start running spies into him. You just go sit down and talk to him. Hey, we were talking to this guy Downer, and he says that you told him, that the Russians have dirt on Hillary could be very damaging to her. Is that true? It is? Oh, and where did you hear that? Oh, you heard it from Mifsud. At which point, do you know where he heard it? You don't? He just told you but didn't tell you where? Okay, well, thanks. That's where it ends with Papadopoulos. At that point, you should be focused on Mifsud, not Papadopoulos. Mifsud. Mifsud's the guy that knows this. Papadopoulos doesn't know shit. It was dropped in his lap. Clearly, he doesn't know anything. He's saying, yeah, I'm having a conversation with this crazy guy, Mifsud, and he just drops it in my lap. I don't know what the hell he's talking about. Everybody's looking for Hillary's emails. Big deal. Everybody's got dirt on Hillary. Who doesn't have dirt on Hillary? Dirt on Hillary is not the issue. Emails is not the issue. None of this is the issue. The issue is that you have supposedly a Russian operative trying to infiltrate an American. So the guy that you would want to focus on is Mifsud. You would want to go sit down with Mifsud and say, okay, Joe, where did you hear that you told Papadopoulos? Where did you hear that? That's where you start. You talk to Downer and confirm what he said and get any other additional information. Then you go to Papadopoulos and see if the story matches up with Downer's. If it does, and you say, good, that's solid. Now let's go talk to Mifsud and find out what he heard, when he heard it, and who he heard it from. The FISA and the investigation, if you really want to find out what Russia's doing and who they're working through, should have been Mifsud. And then whoever he tells you he heard it from. And then you go to that person and you find out where he got it. Or you investigate or try to find it. You put a FISA on that person. That's where the investigation should have went. But it didn't, did it? Because we know who Mifsud was working for, and so did they. They didn't need to go ask. He was working for one of their friends. Maybe them. Maybe been working for the FBI. Maybe been working for Comey or Strzok or Priestep or one of these people. Or maybe he's working for Brennan or someone in the UK. He was working for somebody. And that's what you want to get to the bottom of. Yet when they go interview Mifsud, they don't seem to have a 302 about the interview. They can't seem to tell us very much about what they asked Mifsud and what he said. Even a first-year, fresh out of detective school detective could sniff this one out. This is, again, it's insanity. Third-hand information that the Russian government... What's the evidence? Where is the evidence that the Russian government had anything to do with this? Did they confirm any of that? It's Mifsud, not the Russian government. Are they suggesting Mifsud is a representative of the Russian government? It doesn't appear that that's the case, because he hangs out with Western government officials and even trains Western spies in a spy school in Rome. If he's a Russian agent, then he's the best Russian agent ever. alleges Papadopoulos claimed to an unnamed third party, Alexander Down the Hatch Downer, that the Russians could assist the Trump campaign with the anonymous release of info damaging to Hillary Clinton. It's not exactly what Downer said. And again, the Russians, where is the evidence of that? This is thin. This is beyond thin. This is stupid thin. You don't go open a counterintelligence operation based on what Downer said. If you did want to get a counterintelligence operation, then you would go to Mifsud. He's the guy who could tell you, or a guy you could interview and find out if the Russians were behind it, or if he was just making this up, or someone else may have been behind it. This is why this is a big, big problem. And this is why Durham was traveling all over Europe. One of the reasons why Durham was traveling all over Europe and talking and going over and interviewing Downer. And we assume, and of course the reason why they were trying so hard, see, Durham was actually doing what you would do. He goes and talks to Downer, he talks to Papadopoulos, and then he goes looking for Mifsud, who can't be found. Boy, oh boy. But even if Durham does not track down Mifsud, he doesn't need to. All he has to know is that Peter's been stroking us, and the FBI didn't really make any effort whatsoever to get to the bottom of Mifsud. They interview him in a hotel and then let him walk and never interview him again or even try. You see, none of this adds up. It's certainly not going to add up to Durham. It just doesn't work. They're in a world of trouble. Peter's been stroking us is in a world of trouble because of this and many other things. This will not fly. Durham and his team of investigators are smart enough to realize that no counterintelligence operation would function like this. You don't go to the guy who gets the dirt dropped on him. He's your friend. You go interview him and he's cooperative with you. Says, yeah, I did have this conversation with that Australian ambassador. Yeah, I did tell him about that damaging information that the Russians may have. And I heard that from this kind of crazy guy named Mifsud. At which point the FBI goes, yeah, well, tell us everything you know about Mifsud. And Pops probably tells him. There's the whole history. This guy, I was introduced to him in Rome. Then he tells me he could help me meet a lot of, important people. Maybe even get a meeting with Putin, a photo op of Putin and Trump. Maybe he can set that up, all these types of things. And then he tells me about the Russians having dirt on Hillary. And that's at the point where the FBI goes, good, well, thanks a lot. That's great information. You have anything else? Good. And you go make a beeline for Mifsud and you pursue that to the end. That's what should have happened. And Durham knows it. Everyone knows it. Peter's been stroking us, needs a very good lawyer, criminal defense attorney. And everyone else who signed off on this joke, Mr. Priestep. And everyone who knew about it, which is everyone in the Obama administration, including Obama and Susan Rice, and all the rest. So there you go. Well, the Supreme Court has blocked the Penguin, Jerry Nadler's request for the Mueller grand jury information. Uh-oh. Threw a wrench in their spokes there. So much for that attempt at impeachment. Looks like you can put that one on ice. I bet the Penguin is pretty pissed off right now. But, the Supreme Court was never going to rule to turn over grand jury information. It's something they've never done. They don't do it. They just don't do it. And if they do it, you got to have a damn good reason. Curiosity is just not a very good reason, Mr. Penguin. I bet he's peeing his pants right now, throwing a temper tantrum, because he knows there's a lot of things coming down the pipe that he doesn't want to hear. Well, it looks like Ron Johnson's committee that we talked about the other day was going to, do their thing. for their investigation into Burisma and the Ukraine affair. That's going to begin in June. So it looks like Ron Johnson's committee has now obtained the required votes. It was a party line vote, just as I said it would be. Republicans and Democrats, all Republicans voting for, all Democrats voting against. The Republican vote carries the day because they have an 8-7 majority. So Ron Johnson has succeeded in winning the vote in his committee to issue subpoenas related to Hunter Biden and Burisma Holdings. Yes, the Democrats are now panicking big time because there's a lot going on here. Obviously, just yesterday, we got this leaked audio, which is coming from someone having something to do with the case, the criminal case that's going on in Ukraine, which is the case that Viktor Shokin, this fired prosecutor, brought against the government. That's been going on now for almost a year. And this leaked audio tape was evidence that was brought forward in that case going on in Ukraine. And we have an update on that today as well. But Ron Johnson's committee has now got the votes to issue the subpoenas. They are going to subpoena Hunter Biden. Oh, man, that is really bad news because you've seen this guy, I'm sure, being interviewed. I mean, he's just like his daddy-o. He may be slightly dumber than his daddy. He's just his daddy's a lot older. But this guy is not a guy you want being interviewed, especially in open hearings. And I do hope these are open hearings, unless he's got a lawyer sitting next to him telling him what to say and not to say. Because, I mean, as bad as his dad is a gaffe master, Hunter Biden is just flat out not smart enough to maneuver his way through a tricky interview. And so you can bet that there's going to be fireworks, especially if this is a public hearing. Now, I imagine Hunter Biden's going to fight this as much as possible. They're going to try to avoid this, but I don't think they can get around it. And the fact that if he refuses and tries to fight testifying, that's going to look worse than if he shows up and testifies, almost. We don't know what he's going to say, but we know it's going to be bad. We know he's going to screw it up, because this guy screws up everything. This guy is a screw-up, period. So I bet, the Democrats are certainly panicking at the thought of having Hunter Biden sitting in front of Ron Johnson's committee. There's some pretty smart Republicans on that committee. But not only that, he is also going to be subpoenaing individuals from Blue Star Strategies, as well as a stack of documents that they're requesting. And we know what documents those are. Those are all the documents of all the communications that Blue Star had with Obama administration officials and various agencies, departments of the government, where they went in and lobbied people in Obama's administration and bureaucracies in the government to put pressure on to end this investigation into Burisma. And of course, Blue Star is a Democrat-run consulting firm that works exclusively for Democrats, kind of like a Confusion GPS type of a deal. And of course, they were hired by Burisma to lobby for them. And of course, they used their connections to influence or attempt to influence the investigation. They went to multiple government agencies, as well as people in the Obama administration. And of course, now they're going to have to turn over all those documents. Boy, oh boy. If you're looking for some fireworks to come, that is where I would say you're going to see some fireworks coming right there. Ron Johnson's a straight shooter. Lindsey Graham, you never know what you're going to get with Lindsey Graham. He's puts on a good show. But Ron Johnson's not very much of a showman. He just is kind of a, pretty straight shooter and would like to get to the bottom of this, and I think that's what he's doing. So I would say we'll keep our eye very close on Ron Johnson's hearings. I think that's where some really big explosive information could come from. And if there's public hearings with Hunter Biden, that's going to go very badly. I can tell you that right now. Well, I'll tell you someone else who's got a lot of problems, most of them criminal, and who also should lawyer up, and I'm sure she already has, and that would be Susan Rice. Now, we all know she's a pathological liar, going all the way back to Benghazi and beyond. But just some of the new things that have come out in the last 2 or 3 weeks, especially this January 5th CYA letter, really have exposed her, Obama, and Comey in a big way. And we had a report in the Gateway Pundit yesterday where they go back into the archives and they pull out this October 2019 interview with CBS where Susan Rice literally tells them that Joe Biden did nothing wrong in firing or moving to get the prosecutor fired in Ukraine because he was ordered to do so by his boss, Obama. There's Susan Rice saying, yeah, well, Joe Biden just did what our administration, the Obama administration, told him to do. Go over there and make sure you get that prosecutor fired. He's corrupt. She says that Biden was just following Obama's orders when he forced the firing of Viktor Shokin. That's pretty damning right there. I mean, that's pretty bad right there. So there's no doubt. There's nobody at this point can question whether or not Burisma Joe was a key player or was the guy exerting the force on Poroshenko to fire Shokin. Susan Rice is telling us that. She's also telling us that Biden did it because he was told to by his boss, Obama. I don't know. Susan Rice might be a good witness for the prosecution at this point. Durham may be calling her as a witness for the prosecution, not for the defense. And of course, let's go through some other things, some other reasons why Susan Rice may be having a lot of problems. In addition to admitting what I just told you to CBS in October of 2019, Rice also in the January 5th meeting was in that January 5th meeting when Obama, Comey, and Yates had their private, you got two stories. You got Yates saying that after that meeting which included, of course, Comey and Brennan and Clapper and Rice and Yates and Obama and herself, she says, or Yates says, that at the end of the meeting, Obama asked her and Comey to stay behind. Yates says that Obama asked her and Comey to stay behind because they were going to be officials who would continue to remain in the government after Trump came in. Obama and Rice and Brennan and Clapper, they're going to be going. Only Yates and Comey would remain. That's why Obama wanted to talk to them. But here we have Susan Rice writing the Cover Your Ass letter talking about what was discussed. Now, somebody here is lying. Because how would Susan Rice know the details of what was discussed between Comey, Yates, and Obama unless she were there? She writes the letter as if she was there. First-hand information. But Yates testified that it was just her, Comey, and Obama. So how does Rice know exactly what was discussed if she wasn't there? Unless she was. And if she was there, then Yates failed to mention that she was there. By accident or on purpose. We don't know, but somebody's lying. Either Yates or Rice are lying. And what if we find out that Yates is telling the truth and Rice was not there? That means that we get a Cover Your Ass letter about a meeting that went down that Rice is telling us what went down when she wasn't even there. So why would she write the letter? She wrote the letter because, according to her, the White House counsel, Obama's White House counsel, told her to write the letter. Oh my God. That's bad news. That is bad news. Now, also in the letter, Rice says that the Obama National Security Team were concerned about Flynn and his communications with the Russians. Now, the only problem with that is that this meeting went down on January 5th. But we know that on January 4th, the FBI case agent who was handling the investigation into Flynn gave him the all clear and even contacted the FBI main building and said, hey, we're preparing to close the file on Flynn. And Peter's been stroking us, no, don't close the file, don't close the file. The 7th floor is taking care of this. So on January 4th, they close the file and say they've completed their investigation, Flynn is clean. But on January 5th, Rice is telling us that they're concerned about Flynn and his communications with Russians. Really doesn't add up, does it? She's going to have to explain that one. And by the way, who is Rice's lawyer? Catherine Rumler. Obama's old lawyer. And former White House counsel. So she's Obama's former White House counsel to a certain point. Then she's no longer White House counsel. Now she's Rice's lawyer. You think it's possible that she was both White House counsel and Rice's lawyer? In which case she would be coming to Rice, representing the Obama administration, saying, yeah, I want you to write this letter. She would be a lawyer for both parties, telling Rice to write the letter to give to the Obama administration. Boy, this is just, you can't make this up, man. These are supposed to be smart people, but this is really stupid behavior. This is really stupid behavior. Here's another problem. The timestamp on the letter, Susan Rice's Cover Your Ass letter, the timestamp says 12:37 p.m., January the 20th, 2017. Now, why is that a problem? Well, because officially, on Inauguration Day, at exactly 12 o'clock p.m., the president becomes the president of the United States. He's sworn in. And we know from records that the Obama people bugged out of the White House that morning. On the morning. So how could she have written a letter at 12:37 p.m., 37 minutes after all the Obama people are to be out of the White House? And we know from records that they were basically out of there much earlier that morning. So how could she have been out of there early in the morning, but yet there on a government system at 12:37? It appears that the timestamp on the letter has been doctored. She'll have to explain that one too. She'll lie about that as well, because that's all she does is lie. But this time, John Durham is probably not going to let her off the hook. So, it appears that one of the Ukraine hoax, now we're getting back to the Ukraine here for a second. Yes, this is based on some new information that just came out. It appears that one of the Ukraine hoax impeachment lawyers, Jamie Raskin, in other words, one of the lawyers who was on Schiff's team in the recent Ukraine hoax impeachment hearings, one of those lawyers is named Jamie Raskin. Turns out, Jamie Raskin is the husband of Sarah Raskin. And Sarah Raskin just happens to be one of the Treasury Department officials who requested unmasked calls involving Michael Flynn. It's another one of them husband and wife teams. Just like Rodenstein, just like Bruce and Nellie, and a bunch of others. These husband and wife teams, Glenn Simpson and his wife, boy, a lot of tag teaming going on in this plot. We also have the Washington Post yesterday running this story saying that there was no unmasking request on Flynn in the Flynn-Kislyak phone call. And of course now we've come to know this is true. This is true, so the Washington Post actually reporting some truth for a change. Now, they're doing it for another reason. They think this makes them look good, but it doesn't. It's bad. So, the Washington Post reporting yesterday there was no unmasking request on Flynn in the Flynn-Kislyak phone call because Flynn's name was never masked in the first place. As it turns out, the FBI was wiretapping all of Kislyak's calls. And so, when they presented, when Comey gets the transcript, they take pieces of this transcript that is of interest to them and they give it to Clapper. The FBI takes the transcript from because they got a FISA on Kislyak all the time. It's just an ongoing renewal, ongoing never-ending FISA on Kislyak. They're always monitoring Kislyak. The FBI is monitoring everything Kislyak says. Listen to all his calls. And they take one of those calls with Flynn, and they take certain pieces of that conversation, they put it into a transcript, and the FBI, some Comey or someone high up in the FBI, passes it on to Clapper. Clapper, who then goes over on January the 3rd, actually on the 4th. Clapper goes over on the 4th, the very same day that the FBI field agent is trying to close the case on Flynn. The FBI, we assume Comey or McCabe, gives Clapper this transcript, and he trots on over to the White House and tells Obama about it. And then the next day we get the January 5th meeting. Boy, oh boy, I mean, this is just so obvious. It couldn't be any more obvious what they were doing. Comey, all these people, they better get some very, very good criminal defense attorneys. Also, we have, yesterday we have Devin Nunes sending over the criminal referrals to the DOJ. Now, he will not name the individuals that he sent the criminal referrals on, but we know they're all basically everyone on Mueller's team, especially Andrew Weisass and Brandon Von Grack. But also, he sends a criminal referral on the Mueller report itself, which he calls the Mueller dossier. Yeah, it should be looked at very hard, as well as his entire team. So there you go. And whether or not, now we know that Durham is actually looking into the Mueller investigation and that whole thing. We also yesterday, getting back to the Ukraine issue that we were talking about earlier, now the judge that's hearing this case, remember, Victor Shokin brought a case against the government for, wrongful firing or termination. And yesterday, the judge named Joe Biden to be listed as an alleged perpetrator of the crime in the prosecutor's firing Shokin. And he refers to Shokin as the victim. So the judge in this case in the Ukraine, having heard the evidence that's been presented over the past however many months, and of course, along with this phone call that he's heard that was leaked that we got yesterday, or in this case, the day before yesterday, he has determined that Joe Biden is the perpetrator of the crime and that Shokin is the victim. That's not good. And this is an actual real legal case going on. So, and what happens here is that Biden does what he's told, goes over and tells Poroshenko, fire Shokin or you don't get the money. Poroshenko then, we now know from this phone call, it's confirmed, contacts Biden and says, okay, I did it. I fired Shokin. Now, let's talk about the money. And Biden begins to talk about the money. But what happens after that is that once Shokin is fired, then Biden gets the new prosecutor that the Obama administration wants. He comes in and immediately drops the case against Burisma and any more investigations into Hunter Biden. And then the next thing that happens, Trump wins the election, and this prosecutor quits and leaves town. Quits and leaves town. Disappears for a long time. But word is, it's being reported, that he's been hanging out in Monaco. Monaco. Now, for those of you who don't know, Monaco is a place where you cannot even go to the main areas where people go into Monaco unless you are super, super, super rich. You got to be super rich to even walk around in Monaco. That is the playground for the super wealthy. It's kind of like Switzerland. Some places in Switzerland is like gated. It's like if you don't have a VIP card, you ain't getting in. That looks very, very bad. It all looks bad. Biden's got a lot of problems. He's got a Tara Reade problem. He has got this Ukraine problem. He's got a Hunter Biden problem. He has got a, mental faculties problem. He's got a enthusiasm gap problem. He's got a rotten Reverend Clinton problem for sure. He has got a lot of problems. I told him not to jump into this thing a long time ago. And once he did, I said, get out. Get out. He could have walked away with a pension and been clear of all this. None of this would have been pursued. But the fact that he decided to stick around, now it's all going to come down on him. And I guess he thought they'd protect him, but they can't. It's all coming out. The truth's going to come out. What happens about it, I don't know. But the truth is definitely getting out there. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. See you. Bye.